You don't want to go to the back of a hydrogen car and drink a whole bunch of water, but I just drank a little bit to make a point that, here is exhaust that's so clean that I can drink it. It makes sense in certain places because they had a lot of geothermal energy. So we were actually opening hydrogen fuel cell places. They were using hydropower, they were using geothermal energy to be able to make the hydrogen. So it's great if you can make hydrogen from using a renewable energy source. Obviously, if you're going to have to burn a whole bunch of coal in order to make the hydrogen, then that's not a viable option. Biofuel is going to make sense with certain things. I definitely think cellulosic ethanol, has real potential to do some great things because you can make fuel out of things that we're not eating, things that we're throwing away, pretty much anything with cellulose. I'd love to see a day when, the end of Back to the Future where he's, dropping his banana peel in the back of the car and making the fuel right there. I'd love to see things like that. I think there's a company working on breaking down old tires and making fuel out of them. I like the potential of algae-based biodiesel because algae grows very quickly and it doesn't take a lot of room, and like each cell is like 50% oil. So that's a really effective way. So I think, I don't think there's like one silver bullet. Oh, it's going to be electric cars. Oh, it's going to be hydrogen cars. No, it's going to be biofuels or second generation, ethanol. I think there's going to be a combination of all of those things. And in different places, it's going to be different things. I think it's really promising what Better Place is doing. They are actually putting in an electric grid in Hawaii, which makes perfect sense because you can't drive out of state and not have a place to charge your car. And the way that I understand that they're working is that you actually, they're going to have all of these like 50,000 charging stations or whatever. And when you pull up, you don't have to sit there and wait for your car to charge. You're actually just pulling out your battery and trading it in for one that's charged. So it's a very quick change. So I think that's fantastic. Obviously it's a little bit harder to put in a grid on the, continental U.S. because it's a lot bigger place. But I love seeing stuff like that, and I think, eventually we're going to have a really sustainable way for us to get around the Earth.
As far as like an ideal race car situation, what would you come up with if you were to develop your own race car for the track?
I am not a race car builder. I'm a driver. So I don't work on the motors. I just like driving fun race cars. I know that there's some people working on some pretty cool electric cars that are going to be race cars. So I'd love to test them out when they're ready to go. I don't know how close that is to happening. But I'm happy to drive a race car, and I would love to see, yes, all of the cars running an alternative fuel or being electric. I think a lot of people say, oh, well, electric cars, that's not going to happen because the fans love the sound of the race car, taking off. And, I really think, how hard is it to put in a speaker system that's attached to the throttle? And, I hope to see something one day where you can like download a ringtone for your hybrid or your electric car. And, I can say one day, you know what, I feel like I want my electric car to sound like a Ferrari Formula One car today. And I think that's something that you're going to see in the future. So
Not only in the future, there was a motorcycle called the Inertia that I saw a couple of weeks ago at an Eco Auto show that has the chip which enables you to play that, to play any I don't know if it's any sound, but I know you can emulate a motorcycle sound. And
yeah, I think eventually you'll be able to download it just like you can download a ringtone.
I don't know if you're in the market for a car now, but you were saying before that there's two cars that you're looking at for personal use that you might be interested in driving eventually.
Yeah, for me, obviously, I'm an environmentalist, but I'm also a race car driver. And, one of the big points I like to make when I'm at events like these with a bunch of environmentalists is, there were a lot of people in there last night after my speech that came up and were telling me how they were race fans. So caring about the environment doesn't mean that you don't like fast cars and sports cars and performance cars. So for me, it really makes sense to be driving a car that's high performance but also electric or also eco-friendly, if you want to say it that way. So the Tesla is one. I just did a photo shoot with a Tesla. Those are cool cars. They actually ran against me in that hydrogen the zero emission rally when I drove the hydrogen fuel cell car. I also like the looks of the Karma Fisker, so I'd like to check that car out as well. I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen pictures of it. So yeah, I hope to be, what I want to promote is a high performance car that's also green. You can't expect everybody in the world, especially people that really appreciate sports cars, to be driving around Priuses because, a lot of environmentalists also like fast cars. So I think there's a big marketplace for that. And that's what I want to be promoting. And I don't see a reason why I couldn't be at the racetrack at Daytona. And when I get out of my race car, I say, this is the race car, or this is the car that I drive when I'm on the street. And I want that to be a very eco-friendly, but a fast car as well.
So now, as far as your own personal habits and personal things that you do during your day, how do you live the green lifestyle? You said you compost. As far as like your fashion goes, do you think eco when you go out and go clothes shopping?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually just did an eco fashion show with a company called Project Green Search. I don't know if you heard of that or not, but it was a competition, and we had all like vegan clothing, and there were vegan shoe companies, and I got to learn about a lot of the different lines that are out there, and there's quite a few of them. Most of them are based here in Los Angeles. There's not a whole lot of them out in North Carolina. But yeah, I think, we are the consumers. We ultimately drive the market. We as the people can make the decision to say, you know what, I'm not going to buy that brand of tissue because they are not using recycled pulp for that. They are using virgin wood. I think you have to, every time that you purchase something, sort of look at the company, check it out, look at it. Is it wasting a ton of packaging? Are they using recycled packaging in the packaging that they actually have? Because you can't avoid packaging altogether, but you can make sustainable or biodegradable. So I just think that's important in every place in life. I recycle and I compost. I'm vegetarian, and we have solar lighting, and we're trying to get a solar water heater in right now. And I was talking to a couple of PV companies here about getting some concentrated PV on my roof. Cross my fingers. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do that are big things like that. But I also think every time you go to the grocery store, check it out, look at the company. And if you're not happy with the way the company is doing something, if you take the time to just go on their website and shoot them a little email, eventually, if they get enough emails, they're going to start to do something about it. Every time I'm on a plane, I always ask the airline, are you guys recycling? And if they're not recycling, I ask them why. And
you asked to get off the plane at that point?
I don't ask to get off the plane, but by asking, I know that eventually, the management is going to hear. There's a lot of people asking us why we're not recycling. And I've had the flight attendants say, yeah, they're not recycling yet. I know, I'm really upset about it. I'm saying stuff to my management, and I just think, that customer feedback and showing your support of companies that are doing the right thing, that speaks volumes. And if everybody makes the decision to do that, we are millions and millions of people. We can make a really big difference. So I like to stress that, we need to control the market by supporting the good companies and not supporting the bad ones.
And you really are walking the walk and talking the talk. I was reading in your bio about how you won't allow certain companies to sponsor your car if they're not eco or you perceive them as destroying the environment.
Yeah, that has been a really slippery slope for me, actually. That's really, it's put my racing career on hold a lot of the time, which is very difficult because, yes, I'm an environmentalist, but I'm also a race car driver. And I want to race, and I want to do the same thing the guys want to do. I want to win Daytona. I want to run Indy. I want to win races. That's also a big part of who I am. So it was very, very hard, but because I've become so vocal about the environment, because I'm making trips to Congress, to ask senators to support renewable energy and the Climate Security Act and things like that, I don't feel right about putting a company on my racing suit, on my race car, and promoting them if they're, not doing good things for the environment.